How do we come over it? Is with the dialogue and discussion and open discussion and get to know one another. And I have seen tons of cases and examples where people were like, oh my God, that's so true and that's so nice and so on and so forth, and let's meet and sit and have Starbucks and move on and things like that. We need to create things like that. So that, I don't know, I'm just touching on so many things from your very interesting and very true comment what you have mentioned.
May I make just a quick, actually in this country, as far as having more than one wife, we have more with the breakaway Mormon group rather than Muslims that are trying to have more than one wife. It is breakaway Mormon groups that want to have more than one wife. Yeah. So that one alone right there, our biggest is not.
But we don't know what culture they're bringing in, so we don't understand a lot of.
Well, it depends on where he's coming from. That's what he's saying. If he's
yeah.
coming from India, he brought in Indian culture.
Well,
that's different from Saudi Arabia culture.
But we were also talking about these immigrants that have gone from Syria, supposedly, into Germany, and how they're not respecting parts of Germany, or what they've given and so on. We hear a lot of things. Of course, maybe you don't listen to the radio and TV.
Well,
I'm old.
I think I listen to a different channel than you do.
Yeah.
Well, probably. But we get a whole lot of this. And so what do we really believe?
Right.
Do they
You might want to
really?
change your channel sometimes.
No, it's because this is becoming affecting our culture.
Right.
Like I have one daughter that's really trying to understand how come you can pray 5 times when you're working, but a Christian can't say prayers in the public schools. It's diversity, but that's our government. That hasn't anything to do with you, except that's part of your religion.
Right. So I think, I actually agree the fact that it's not about what channel you're listening or anybody else is listening, the fact that what is being broadcasted from those channels, right?
Right.
So I think
and it's
if it's a choice for listening to whatever so I think it's filling those, or making those bridges with people. I would be very sad if a group of people are speaking about my faith without me or any other Muslim being involved in it, and they are coming to a conclusion, like, hello, you're speaking about me or my faith, and you guys are completely missing the point.
Yeah.
So I think it's about time that we have interaction and a discussion and a good dialogue to understand one another. I think that's what you are trying to say.
Yeah.
That, your daughter is having, she cannot understand, well, how can we pray 5 times a day? Well, our prayer is only 2 minutes long, so it's not a whole service like Mass or something like that. So many times there's one thing that, within, again, I mentioned our new generation, the academians and different schools and colleges and universities, they come and see that what is our prayer service like. And many times when people come, and even our neighbors, and I'm just going to open that as an invitation for anyone, because it's always open. Anyone wants to come and they come and see, like, oh, once I'll tell you this one lady, it was very funny and sad. This lady came, very elderly lady came to the mosque. I think Barbara, I probably told you that incident, that she came and had a discussion with me for probably about an hour and a half in my office and everything, and then she was very sad, all teared up, and then towards the end, and then I said, everything okay? She's like, I'm so sorry, I'm gonna confess something. I'm like, what? Like, she opened the thing and she had a knife with her. And she's like, I was so scared coming in, I thought, what I heard about you guys and you, that I was gonna, if you would do something to me, I would stab you. But I'm just confessing this. And very elderly, very hard to walk. I was scared. I was very scared. And bless her heart, she was so sweet enough to confess, and then, it changed her mind. My point is, it changed her mind. And maybe she was listening to something, or maybe she was never came out of her box to even, but that she took that first step, and then she called me, we had a few conversations over the phone, and she came over, and she went back with a very open heart. She's like, you guys are just like, another person came and like, hey, have anyone passed, probably some of you passed by our mosque with a dome? So like, oh my God, you guys are so rich. you have a gold dome made of gold. I'm like, no, it's not gold. And then I'm like, what do you have inside? You know, your wallpaper and everything is made up of gold. I'm like, no, just come in and see. I mean, that the boogeyman, right? The fear factor is there, and we have to, you know, move that fog and live and, you know, get to know each other. And many of those concerns can move away, right? And perhaps if not, we may take some other position, but at least you will still respect and will continue that dream of American dream of, you know, bring that prosperity, bring that happiness back. And if we always try to, you know, focus and get that information and don't, you know, completely try to fathom by speaking to somebody or visiting, then I think it will stay like that. And I mean, both parties will live in fear. Again, this is my concept. Sorry, sir.
Yeah, I do have a real question, but I thought maybe you ought to know this first. Our speaker in the back, Linda Conway, is our pastor's wife, and he is a retired Army chaplain, and the Army sent him to Princeton to study world religions, and he taught Islam and history of the Middle East at the Army War College at the master's level, and he has given several, I think it was 6 lectures here on the history of Islam and the problems and how they got started in the Middle East. So you've had some groundwork set here.
Nice.
But the question I have is, we have this division in Christianity that practically comes to blows regarding the subject of evolution. We have those that say the earth is 5,600 years old, God made it that way, and man walked with the dinosaurs, and the others say, no, it's Darwin and we believe in evolution. And what does Islam, how is their understanding of the phenomenon of creation?
Good. We had a lecture series on this in our interfaith discussion, evolution. And so my take, from as being a scholar in Islam and with my research and so on and so forth, and likewise many other theologians, many other different theologians within Islam would believe is evolution. And the concept of evolution is a very strong point. You know, it's a very strong message, and it will be very hard to dismiss it unless you are completely not looking at it. But also, we are quite strong in our faith and our what's mentioned in the Quran. So what's mentioned in the Quran is Almighty God created this very similar story of the creation in the Bible, which is God Almighty created Adam, and from Adam we believe that He created Eve, and that's how the inception of mankind came, which we all belong to. Now that being said, what I also believe that evolution is something that have happened, but it does not necessarily mean, I mean, there's no fact that we all are that creation of that evolution. I mean, for example, there could be a species, I mean, this is what would probably makes me and many others contend the fact that you don't have to mix it. We could still believe in the two concepts, that there could be a species that was there, whose fossil record shows very well that there was something that was similar to human, and it evolved, and then perhaps it got extinct, and it's no more there. And then this new creation, or the unique creation of God, which is Adam, and the progeny of Adam, which is all of us, and that continued, and that is still there. And we have that to study, and it is there to, you know, live and respect and all.
And most of us don't see a conflict in that. Evolution is the way Allah worked in.
Right. Evolution, I mean, everyone evolves, our thinking evolves, our things, within our lives we see things, evolve, and within the recent records we see different species evolve. So, I mean, it can very well happen. But as far as us, as mankind, we believe that we are the children of Adam.
We're the liberal Lutherans.
Okay. Oh man, it's hard to convince them. Anyways.
Okay, one of the things that you've done over the years, you and some other religious leaders, you've given these forums where the rabbi and it was the priest and you have had a whole series of meetings where you have a topic and you've each discussed it, which I think has been a wonderful offering for the community. The last one that I attended was with Pastor Priggy here at Augustana and the new rabbi,
right.
and you. Are you going to be continuing that?
Okay. So one thing, in the Quad Cities, it's nice. We have so many pastors from different denominations and so on and so forth. And from Judaism, there's 2 rabbis, and from the Islamic faith, there's only 1 imam. Does that answer your question? And with me, full-time work and the master's program is really keeping me occupied. Pastor Brady just emailed us, both myself and Rabbi Jeffrey last week to say that can we start that again, and my schedule is not allowing me to do that anytime soon. But I think we will see it sometime, probably in January or sometime early next year.
How do you see churches united in terms of including the Islamic community?
Yes, Churches United. I'm still part of their advisory team. When Mr. Ron Quay, a great person, I don't know how many of you know him, he was running Churches United until a couple of years ago when he passed away. Very dear friend of mine, and he's the one who really took me out of my inner circle and got me introduced to the interfaith and the greater Quad Cities. So very much involved. I mean, a lot of. We are in the listservs, and this Anne Whittrell, she's the she's a coordinator. I just spoke to her last week regarding how we can, at the Islamic Center, can be part of the relief effort to the Hurricane Matthew relief, which they are, asking. So she was very happy because I was one of the first people who contacted her. So we work together in many of the grounds together because Churches United, one of the defining goal or the objective is, although that they have to keep the name Churches United, but it's beyond the Christian denominations. It's beyond it. We have the panel. The advisors from myself and Lisa from who you guys have seen last week, and also both the Jewish Center and other religious organizations together, trying to do something good for the humanity, local and beyond local.
I can remember about 10 or 15, or probably 20 years ago when we were just kind of considering should our Jewish friends be included in this.
That was then. I was told, I wasn't here, I was told that was a discussion then and how it evolved, our evolution again. Yes. How it evolved from then to here. Yes, sir.
2 questions, but today in the United States and in Asia, a good portion of Asia, and a high percentage in the United States, 60% of the medical and dental schools particularly, are women. And if a member of the faith, a female, wanted to go into medicine, what is the position of the Islamic within the United States? There are certain cultures in certain parts of the world where women, they cannot be your medical provider. So
what's the second question?
So the second question has to do with world population and the explosion of it. It's my view that these turmoils that we have, and it doesn't matter, it's not going to end. It'll only get more and more intense as the world population explodes, and there are people that are desperate. And so anyway.
No, the second one is, I have a lot to say on the second one. First one is very simple. When I was growing up, myself, my siblings, 2 of my sisters, wanted to become a doctor, and I was enrolled back in the 90s in a Catholic school in a pre-med program. Then I joined the Women for Islamic Studies. We have quite a few, because as Indians, you guys, you probably realize that many of us are in the medical field, and my family is full of men, women, doctors. It has nothing that does not, Islam never prevents or does not give any image for women to educate. Any field they want, they could become. There are tons of Muslim women, working in every force, not just in medical field. There are Muslim women in U.S. Army. I just met one of the Muslim women was, representing our country in Olympics. Forgot her name. Ibtihal Muhammad, I think. And likewise, they're everywhere. So it's again the misunderstanding. In India, when I travel to India, this is not just within the Muslims, but the Muslims, Christians, Hindus, Sikh, and many other overwhelming majority, until recently, women in general were not given education, similar to what we had here in centuries ago, right? So it's a culture. It has nothing to do with the faith. So that's what, again, the distinction between faith and culture. So that's why I said, what's the next question? Because it's a very, but the second one is a very important question, and it's a very sad because part of our the politics, the political science class I was taking at August, and it was sad that we watched this one video. Not that we were taught or learned or wanted to give a message, rather this is what some people unfortunately believe, that it's good to stay in war because we need to maintain and break down the population, and that's so evil and so bad. Anyone would think, I believe, that you need to maintain the war in order to keep the population down. That's so sad. Of course, we are growing. It should be concerning for all of us with regards to our natural resources, with regards to the whole the food cycle and the global warming and so on and so forth. But it doesn't mean that we purposely go in war to let our worldly population continue and where we live off the blood of other people. So I mean, that's just a thought just came to my mind when I heard your question, because I remembered that someone was mentioning something of this kind regarding our population. It's increasing. It's a problem that we as humanity need to come and discuss and realize that what are we doing? The deforesting that's happening around the world, right? Sometimes we speak about it, but it's happening, within our country, within Alaska and so on and so forth. It's, deforesting is happening. How will it affect? If it's not affecting us, how will it affect our generations to come? Not just locally, nationally, but globally, throughout the whole world. So these are the things that our politicians, our leaders, and our earth keepers are very strong at it, need to discuss and be concerned, both from politically, religiously, and economically, and every aspect of it. But the solution, unfortunately, like how that one individual mentioned, I don't recall who he was, but mentioned that war is not the solution for that. So, I mean, of course it's a concern. I think it's anyone's concern. Yes, sir.
Religion and your culture encourages people to work together and to support one another. How is it that your community does not condemn the radical Islams?
Very, very good question. But I would... You're assuming that it does not condemn, or do you know we do not? Was that a message or was that a question?
That's the question.
Okay, right. As I mentioned earlier, that the 5-minute conversation I had with the media, that was all condemning the acts of terror. But what it portrayed it in the newspaper was something completely different. Every time, our press release goes out to all the local media newspapers regarding if there is any horrendous act, right? Whether if it's done by Muslims or non-Muslims or any of the relief. So we are out there giving our message. If our message is not taken up, I mean, with all due respect, we are having this conversation now. If we had it before, then probably this question would not even come up, right? My point is, we are out there. What else do you want me to do? Trust me, I will not get the prime time. I would not get this message to be gone out.
And I can tell you that actually the Muslim leaders around the world have gotten together.
But they don't say anything.
Yes,
so it's not my... I mean, I know that...
Yeah, they did.
Does anyone here has a, do they own a TV channel that's broadcast that? It's so sad. I mean, I'm feeling the same pain you are feeling. As I mentioned, I'm feeling the same pain that where is, not just my voice, anybody else's voice. Let's speak about this. It's not happening because it is not, I don't know what it is. It's very sad. It's very sad. Yes. When Orlando shooting happened. It was in the Ramadan.
Yes.
So it was fascinating. So I went out in every possible way that I could get my message across on the TV. Went to the Unitarian Church. They had a huge event, a lot of TV coverage there. Because Unitarian Church in Davenport, where they welcome the gays and lesbians, it's an LGBT church, basically, Universalist. So I went there, I spoke, and it was covered, right? The media, all of the media channels, everything was there. My message was not there. And obviously my message was something to condemn, right? And my message was, the solidarity and so on and so forth. But everyone's message was same. But I don't know. I do not know. I wish I knew the answer. But it's sad, and it's concerning, and it's bothersome.
I'm thinking about the young man who shot up the black church.
Yes.
But they didn't say, he was Lutheran.
He was Lutheran. Yeah, ELCA Lutheran.
Yeah, and they didn't say, Christian man shoots up church, Lutheran man shoots up black church. They consider, everybody's okay with putting him as a lunatic fringe, and they're not blaming all Christians for shooting up the black
And
church.
same thing what happened 2 days ago. And it's sad. And this is where doesn't matter. And this is something, I'm sorry if I'm raising up my voice, but it makes sense. And I hope I think everyone would agree. Doesn't matter who is the perpetrator of the crime. If the crime is that, well, just should be brought to justice, and those individuals, not anyone's faith, because our faith never, okay, let me say this very clearly. Our faith never gives a green signal. That never allows for any terror, or never allows anyone to create any fear to anybody. If someone does that, that person is not part of our faith. That person leaves out of our faith. So these people, ISIS, as a leader, as an Islamic leader, right, as a scholar, I don't consider them as Muslims. They are misrepresenting our faith. They're not even Muslims. I strongly believe, that's a whole different topic. I don't even think they're Muslims. There are these who are putting the garb of Muslim to give that image, and I don't know what kind of conspiracy and what it is, but it has nothing to do with Islam. Islam is a rich religion that had its very rich legacy that it contributed to the society right from the beginning of its time. And if it was this evil religion, what it's being broadcasted, it would have, either Islam would have not survived or no one else would have survived. That was that whole mission and goal. So, it bothers me because here, people are speaking about my faith, not even understanding and realizing what implication it will have on others and on myself and many of people who are of my faith. Sorry, this time.
Well, first off, of course, fear creates
Fear.
all for generations have created the misunderstandings of the war.
Yes.
To my mind. But when you hear the word radical Islam,
Yes.
radical Islam, it's just like when now they are starting to point up that, well, those Christians went through that crusade and slaughtered all those people how many centuries ago.
Yeah.
But it's here, and as you say, our understanding and communication.
And that's a
has to
solution.
become a
And that's a solution, and we need to be strong. And this goes back to what Mahatma Gandhi did in India. What Dr. King did here. That's communication. They stood up, marching. We don't have to march. We have to continue that communication with respect, understanding that there will be similarities and differences in our faith. And good. That's fine. Let's see where we can hold those grounds and just educate one another. And I think if we start, and I'll end with this topic unless if there's more question. I forgot now the name of the author. He writes down in the end of his book that once he was by the seashore. You guys probably remember this incident. And then he sees from far this young boy, doing some weird things by the sea. He's throwing something in. He comes closer there. Next thing he sees is this young boy. What happened in the night, the big tides, a lot of starfish came on the shore. And he's picking them up because sun is about to come out. If sun comes out, they all will dry and die. So he's picking them up, and there are millions of them throughout the shore. He's picking them up and throwing in the water, picking them up and throwing in the water. This man, adult, smart, intellectual person, a young boy, he's like, what are you doing? Of course, he knew what he was doing. He's like, what are you doing? He's like, I'm saving the starfish. He's like, well, you're one boy, and there's thousands of them here. What difference will it make? and he had a starfish in his hand, and he threw it in the water. He said it made a difference to that one. So next thing you know, there are 2 people throwing starfish. So if we don't, I mean, with what you mentioned, which I completely agree. If we cannot make a big difference on getting on Fox News or something, right, on a big channel, our interaction, it made a difference to me when I came here and listening to you guys and the questions and stuff like that. I hope it made a difference. If not, then we could also get along with everyone who's different and other than us. We just have to get to know them, and that gives out from our heart the true respect, and that's what we need in our time right now in our society to continue to make the Quad Cities the better, the hospitable place in our nation and the whole world, and hopefully we'll get better.
And Don, I will answer your question, where we actually heard about all the imams getting from the worldwide getting together, we watch BBC, and it is very, very different news, and that's exactly what you were talking about. On the British channel, they were talking about what happened in Kansas. They were talking about the 3 guys that were going to blow up a whole apartment building and the mosque with it. It wasn't on our national news, but it was on the BBC, British news. And it is, what is presented to us, we have to really look around because it's not always what we need to hear.
Thank you so much.